Hi, I'm Michael Kraber, candidate for a seat on the White Plains Common Council. I'm here today to talk about two related topics, the real estate market in White Plains and the school district in White Plains. It's kind of an abstract concept to talk about a little bit, so I think the way to start the conversation is by connecting a couple of data points. So I will present a few quote-unquote dots, and then we will connect them at the end of the conversation. So let's start with some positive things, the first couple of dots, if you will. As we see in this article from 2012, published in the White Plains Daily Voice, White Plains is regularly recognized as a model city for young professionals. And as we see in this article from the White Plains Daily Voice in 2015, White Plains actually was named the 9th best small city in the country for singles. And here, this is a LoHUD article from 2014 written by Phil Reisman, where he refers to a study that was called The Best Cities to Grow Old in New York. And what he tells us is that White Plains ranked #1 on the list. So those are all good things. I'm happy to live in a city that's a great place for young professionals. I'm happy to live in a city that's a great place for singles. And I'm happy to live in a city that's a great place for retirees. But let's look at a couple of other dots, and then the problem will start to come into focus. Our home values are not keeping up with neighboring communities. When you look at the data about single-family home sales in White Plains and you compare it to New Rochelle and to the county overall, what you see is that White Plains is having trouble keeping up, both in terms of price and in terms of volume. Here at this slide, there's a graph of the numbers for White Plains and the numbers for New Rochelle since 2008. And what I've done is I've circled the few years that White Plains has come in ahead of New Rochelle. And then this next graph compares the data for White Plains to the data for Westchester County overall. And there you see that, again, we were ahead of the county in 2008 and have only been ahead of them twice in the years since. So there's as much detail there as anyone wants to focus on, whether you're more interested in the median price or the volume, because these graphs have both. Now there's another dot, if you will, that I'm putting out there as a data point that we'll connect later, is that our school district's test scores are falling behind competitors. Now here again I look at New Rochelle, and I do that because New Rochelle is the school district most comparable, most similar to White Plains in terms of it's also a very diverse school district. It's got similar demographics to White Plains, and historically New Rochelle and White Plains have been viewed by a lot of potential home buyers as similar and competitive with each other. Now, I don't put too much stock in test scores. I recognize that a school district's quality is measured by a number of factors, and test scores are only one of them. But we have to take into account the trend lines that are showing New Rochelle kind of pulling ahead of New York State and White Plains not keeping up with New Rochelle. But beyond the test scores, another metric that's important to consider about our school district is its reputation. And the graph here is a map taken from realestatehudsonvalleyny.com, which is one of the resources that young families who are deciding where to live look to learn about school districts. And it's a map of what the school district in Westchester County color-coded by their reputation, as that reputation is measured by a website called greatschools.org. And what we see when we look here is that White Plains is in yellow, which represents a 6 out of 10, where Tarrytown is also in yellow. It's actually the only other district that's in yellow in the county as a 6 out of 10. New Rochelle is in green, which corresponds to a 7 out of 10, and other districts that White Plains should be competing with are either a 7 out of 10 or higher. So if we look at the next slide, this is another data point that tells us about the median income in White Plains. And what it shows us is that the median income in White Plains has been rising. In fact, the change in median household income between 2000 and 2013 in White Plains is that it went up 46.1%. That's a good thing, right, to have a median income rising in the city, but it definitely does raise questions. If the median income is rising so dramatically, how is it that our school district's test scores are declining? So in light of all that's a bunch of different dots to connect. Now let's try to define the problem. The way I see it, the problem is this. White Plains and its school district are becoming increasingly disconnected as time goes on. As the population in White Plains rises, the people moving in tend not to be people who utilize our public schools. As a result, the White Plains Public Schools no longer reflect our wonderfully diverse community the way those public schools did when I attended them as a child. If this trend continues, it will hurt our schools, it will hurt our home values, and it will hurt our entire city. As I see it, we are approaching a dangerous tipping point. The city and the school district are moving forward on different tracks, and we need to bring those tracks closer together for the benefit of both the city and the school district. Now, that's easier said than done. How do we actually bring the city and the school district closer together? So now let's talk about solutions. I think I'm proposing 4 different ways of approaching this problem. Number 1, we need to reconsider our approach to redevelopment. As White Plains has redeveloped in recent years, what we've seen is that time and time again, when a parcel of land comes up for redevelopment, it winds up becoming luxury rental apartment units. Now, I'm glad to have luxury rental apartment units as part of our community, but the problem that we're seeing is that we're not offering a diversified option of housing choices for the various kinds of people who want to move to White Plains and the various kinds of people who want to settle in White Plains. The second solution I propose is that in all policy decisions made by the government, we need to move away from a focus on people who are only here for the short term, whether they're only here for a couple of hours or whether they're only here renting apartments for a couple of years, and focus more on the interests of the people who are looking to settle here over the long term. Compared to neighboring communities where people look to settle, the advantages of White Plains should be a vibrant downtown that is welcoming to people from across White Plains, a better commute to New York City than other neighboring communities have, and a diverse community to raise children. We're not reaping the benefits of those advantages the way that we should be because City Hall has not been focused on these issues. Now let me give one example of how I think City Hall would have steered us in a different direction if they had the focus on these issues that I think is deserved. Some people have heard about a recent study about how White Plains should redevelop the transit district, the area near the train station. And the city came up with, they engaged in a year-long process backed by $1 million grant. And they wound up with 6 recommendations for what they wanted to see happen near the train station. One of the priorities that was identified was making the walk from the train station to downtown White Plains more desirable for people who might visit White Plains from out of town. Now, I think the focus, priorities 1, 2, and 3, should have been to make the train station more accessible to folks who live in the outer neighborhoods of White Plains. Because right now, someone who buys a house in White Plains, if they want to commute to New York City, they have a multi-year wait for a permit in the parking garage at our train station. So the focus of this effort to revitalize or to better utilize the transit district, in my opinion, should have focused on making sure that the train station is more accessible to folks who live in the outer neighborhoods of White Plains, whether that means adding more parking spaces or finding a way to make the train station more accessible without adding more parking spaces. The point is, I think that should be a priority over making the walk from the train station to downtown White Plains more desirable. The third solution I proposed is that we need to retain more of the young families who do move here, including those who rent in these luxury rental apartment buildings. The way to do that is to get those folks engaged in the community and to make them feel connected. And the fourth solution I propose is that we need a common council that is consistently focused on these issues. Our council members do more than simply vote on legislation. They are the eyes, the ears, and the voice of our community. And we need council members who are constantly thinking about these issues, who are constantly talking about these issues, and who are constantly focused on addressing these issues. We must address the reputation of White Plains as a place that is not a desirable place to raise a family, and I respectfully submit to the voters out there that I'm uniquely qualified to do this as someone who grew up in White Plains and then moved back and decided to raise my own family here and has a daughter who's currently enrolled in the public schools. I think it uniquely situates me to take on the role of being a council member who focuses on this problem and addresses it head on. So in conclusion, this is not an easy problem to solve. It takes a multi-layered approach, but with the right amount of focus and some new ideas and some new energy on the Common Council, I'm confident that White Plains can do it and that we can reach the great potential of this fine city that raised me and that brought me back. Thank you for listening. I'm Michael Craver, candidate for a seat on the White Plains Common Council. I hope to have your support, and if you would like to talk more about any of the issues I brought up, I invite you to find me on Facebook on Twitter, on Instagram. My website is craver4council.org, and I look forward to speaking with you as much as you're interested.